So I am asking on stage, one of our speakers is already here. Thank you, Dima. We will be talking about LeapXpert, the Accenture FinTech Innovation Labs, and also a global commercial bank rollout. We have Dima Gutzeit already with us. We will have Kyriakos Voutsas with us in a second. So Dima, you are the CEO and founder of LeapXpert. You're based in Hong Kong. So thank you for joining us in the afternoon for you, not in the morning. You have 20 years and more of experience in different communication platforms. You have also led the technology team in a large telco company, and you've really worked on a lot of international, from Russia, Israel, Hong Kong, so you are our global persona per se today. And Kyriakos, thank you for joining us. You're the MD in financial services in DACH. You're based in Switzerland. You know a lot of different multinational universal bank projects. So I thank you for joining us today. I would say we immediately jump in. Kyriakos and Dima, tell us about your secure communication platform and the whole journey that the two of you went through.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Thanks for having us here in Vienna. Warm welcome also from the sunny Zurich. Today, let's jump straight into the story that we would like to share with Dima today. So we'll go over to the next page, please. We'll start where a couple of years back, so a few years back actually, with a FinTech Innovation Lab. Yeah? So Danny at the beginning of the session mentioned that we have 3 of those. So let's have a look at the first step where the story began, and then we'll go through the partnership that me, Avi, and the colleagues from LeapXpert had with Accenture, and then we'll go in a third step during the presentation to the project and the benefits we have created for our client. Let's go first to a few years back. Let's go back the time, and let's go to the next page, please. Let's start with the FinTech Innovation Lab. I'll give it 2 seconds introduction, and then Dima will share also the experience, what we had here. FinTech Innovation Lab. So we're talking about Hong Kong now. So the other 2 are in New York, and we're talking about an innovation lab that has hosted multiple events. More than 750 proof of concepts. We have alumni like LeapXpert, one of the best actually out of this region, that have raised enough capital, more than 2.5 billion of capital to really grow their businesses. And also some of them, and I don't know, Dima, if that's at the back of your mind, already had successful M&A exits. So this is really an up and running for more than 7 years. Hong Kong has been up and running since 2014, actually. And this is an up and running, very well established innovation incubator where we bring our financial services firms. And in Hong Kong, I think we have roughly 20 tier 1 FS companies that are joining these sessions together with fintechs and Accenture so that we can create maximum value. At the bottom of the page, you see the motto of this collaboration. But Dima, perhaps over to you to explain a little bit more from your experience. How did it feel like going through the FinTech Innovation Lab in Hong Kong?
Sure, thank you, Kyriakos. So maybe I can explain our experience by kind of stating where we were before the program and where we are right now. Right? It helps always this Twitter memes of before and after. The program, we were mostly unknown startup, right? A small startup from Hong Kong, but we had the MVP, which is very important, and we had tons of ambitions, right? We want to capture the world. What we didn't have is we had no customers and we had no meaningful POCs, but we knew we are on the right way. So we applied to Accenture. We went through an extensive program of 12 weeks with the program. And now fast forward a couple of years from then, we are a global leader in what we do in our space. Few of the banks we met through the program are our production customers, and few others came as a recommendation from those customers. And we have by far the best product on the market, right? So this is kind of a before and after. And the main takeaways from the program itself, which was a real jumping board for us for global expansion, was first of all networking, right? So through the program, we got exposure to tens of financial institutions, which otherwise will be very hard to go kind of one by one. It will be almost impossible. We refined our product, of course, as a comment from the program participants on all the financial institutions. So the product and the positioning of the product much better. And as a direct result from the program, we were engaged with multiple POCs, and which translated to production deployments for a few of the biggest banks in the world. And the story of this session is of one of those engagements that were done together with Accenture.
Let's go then over to the second part, the Accenture Partnership. So let's go to the next page, please. I still remember, I think it was a Friday late afternoon, so it might have been night for you, Dima and Avi, when we actually had an email from a colleague, an MD out of Hong Kong, who gave me a short heads up and said, look, there is a process going on with your bank. I'm responsible for the business that we're doing with a Swiss universal bank, one of the two ones that you can imagine here in Switzerland. And this process will lead to an RFP and will lead to a decision. Yeah? And this decision will be about a new communication platform that is compliant, so that the authorities are also fine to use it for employee to employee and employee to client communication. I say, well, that sounds interesting. What do I have to do? And then we had, I think on Sunday, we had a demo, and I got to meet Dima and his colleague Avi, and we went through the solution. And then I started thinking about the potential. So this has value generating potential for my clients. So this is good. It ticks some boxes. So let's go and have a deeper look into that. And the next one was the synergies, because if you're coming with a partnership, if Accenture and a FinTech come together to a client, then you better have your story right, and you better have a story where the sum of the two generates more value than the individual ones. So these were the two things that were going through my head. And we were trying to understand then, after the first demo and a couple of discussions with Dima and Navi, how we go about it. But it was clear we'll help each other through the process, and we'll bid together through that process, because me and my team know our company, our client very well, and we know how the process of a client works. We know their procurement area. We know they're not experienced with sourcing with fintechs. So we would guide through that process, and obviously Dima and the team would bring the innovative solution. So the challenge in the middle, as you see, was how to make employee to client and employee to employee communication compliant, but also empowering the people, right? And this was even accelerated by COVID, because you may have heard it also in the news, relationship managers of the bank were actually reaching out to clients. They weren't able to meet anymore physically, so they were reaching out to the clients, and reaching out over a normal call doesn't make a lot of sense, but reaching out over WhatsApp and a video call and a Zoom makes a lot of sense, but it's not compliant, right? So this was right there, the problem that COVID brought, and the acceleration that digitization had to answer to. And Dima, you had a solution for that, so let's go a little bit and have a look at that.
Yeah, sure. So maybe how it also looked from our side. So first of all, step back and explain what we do. So LeapXpert is a global provider of a messaging platform that enables compliant messaging between banks, any department of a bank, and clients. Right? It's mostly used for front office engagement, but not only. Right? And back at the time, this large bank had this immediate need of such solution, following some bank history. And we had the right solution, and the bank knew us through the program as well. So we knew that this RFP, this project, will be in Switzerland, and for us it was clear that we, as a small startup from Asia, we will not be able to do that. So that's why we reached out to our partners in Accenture, and this is how Kyriakos was involved in the whole process. Now, the overall working with Accenture was as effective as it can get. So we were introduced over the weekend. We went over the joint proposition. We applied for RFP. In fact, we were working on the RFP application for I think a week or so, and we submitted the RFP, I think, in the last 5 minutes of the RFP window. was a very was stressful, but we're working like 24/7 with Accenture's teams from Europe and our company from Asia. Right. Following the RFP submission and very productive cooperation, we end up getting the deal. And the funny thing is, in this RFP, we were competing against 2 other companies, and they were Swiss-based companies, right? And this kind of in retrospective, it's amazing by itself, right? So we company from Hong Kong won this RFP with Swiss bank competing versus 2 Swiss banks, and this is also where the kind of the COVID angle comes into play. So for us, COVID in this project was very helpful because all the engagement from the beginning to the end was all virtual, including teams with Accenture, including teams from the bank. In fact, we never physically met the customer up until now. And so that's where we are partnership-wise.
Very good. Let's have a look at the project and results, right? And we mentioned already this is a global universal bank. So we're talking multiple countries. We're talking Switzerland, Europe, APAC, the US. We're talking 50,000. Dima, correct me if I'm wrong. 50,000 employees. This is now up and running. It's live. It's not a concept. It's not a proof of concept. It's not a proof of value. It's live and up and running. It's going also to the clients. So the first thing for the successful delivery was the synergies, right? So the Accenture team knew the client. Accenture team knew how to navigate the procurement process, how to help the negotiation and win, actually. As Dima said, win against the odds. Yeah, you had 2 Swiss local based and established players sitting next to the guys and most probably discussing with the client also in physical meeting rooms, right? So there was a synergy in there. There was also a synergy in the joint delivery because we knew how to run such projects, system integration projects, deployment projects, at Credit Suisse. So our team focused on exactly that, how to package the solution and bring it closer to Credit Suisse and really make it work in their own systems, right? And then also show that since this was a compliance-driven program, it was a program, it still is a program that is actually sponsored by the executive board. Yeah, so you need to keep at the back of your minds, this is the group COO, the group compliance officer, and the group CIO, the information officer, who are actually co-sponsoring this initiative. This is huge, right? The pressure that is going to our client internal team, but also to our teams was really immense. We had pretty tough timelines to meet. So having the senior level of engagement and also the topic champions was very important. So I think these are a few of the things. It was a completely virtual delivery. In the client said when we started in the kickoff of the project, they said this is the first time we went through a fully virtual RFP process. And we have in front of us most probably a fully virtual delivery process. So let's see how this works. It worked well. And Dima, perhaps you have a few other insights and lessons learned from that.
Yeah, sure. So there were 2 major factors contributing to the successful completion of the project. First of all, the product, of course, we had the right product for the right problem at the time. And second was the synergy between the LeapXpert team and Accenture team in delivering the product, right? So without Accenture, we would not have any chance delivering it. And Accenture were and are still our boots on the ground in Switzerland. So there's a person from Accenture working together with us and the teams from the bank on a daily, weekly basis right now. Right. Another kind of a challenge which we overcome together was the fact that it was the first cloud-based deployment, and this is maybe kind of linking to previous conversation with the scene as well, talking about that cloud first. So our platform, it's a cloud native by itself, and because of that, we kind of the bank was forced to go cloud native with our product. And I mean, it was a little bit challenging, but if we see the end results, it's pretty successful. Right? And of course, we had to overcome we had to work in this fully remote way with COVID complications, and I mean it's proven to be successful. So if you would ask me 1 year ago, can we do this project remotely? the answer would have been probably no. But now, I mean, it's all history, of course. But we see that large-scale complex projects can be delivered in a fully remote way if there is a right setup where a company resides somewhere, and then there is a local partner that helps with local delivery. Of course, what was really helping also from the bank side, the reason why it was executed in a record time, so it was the project execution took 6 months, and those of you who are working with banks, you know that 6 months is nothing, right? So for us, it took 6 months from the contract till production deployment, and this is largely due to kind of our product capabilities, Accenture team help, and of course the help from the most senior people in the bank. It was a project sponsored by the bank's board, which helped a lot. Yeah, Kyriakos, back to you.
Thank you, Dima. Yes, and just to keep it at the back of your minds, so FINMA regulated with an audit point, executive board really launching this program amidst COVID, a FinTech coming out of Hong Kong for the first time in Switzerland, a fully virtual program team during the proposal as well as the delivery, and the first ever cloud deployment of that client. So a cloud first, really fully on the cloud and not really migrating an existing application to a cloud. The first ever cloud first deployment was exactly this program. So all the things, all the challenges that one could meet were there, and still this was a very successful program. On the last page, just to wrap it up in the last couple of minutes. So the remotedness of the whole delivery was certainly one point. Also, the client told us they wouldn't have thought that we would do it so successfully so quickly. The first cloud project ever. This meant that also our client didn't know how to deploy these things on Microsoft Azure. They didn't know how to do the whole testing and deployment processes, the environment management, everything we had to learn fast. Also align the approaches and align our timelines multiple times a day, quickly. Align also the you had to do. And this was the first time for them, and also the pressure and the adoption pressure by the authorities as also by the executive board, right? So we had to prove to the authorities and to the bank that this solution was actually deployed and effectively used by the end users. So basically the 50,000 employees, right? So we had to establish a tracking mechanism with our client so that we can prove that this is not only a compliant in theory and technology compliant solution, but it's also effectively used, right? So value created, Dima, I'll leave it to you to take the first stab at that.
Yeah, okay, value created is very simple. So right now, this one of the biggest banks in the world, they have this mobile first communication platform, which is tightly integrated with the overall compliance pipelines of a bank, cloud native, scalable, which has capabilities of internal communication among all the employees of the bank, as well as, and this is kind of the main point here, communication with external parties over any messenger. So think about clients over WhatsApp, WeChat, Line. So all of this is deployed on a global scale and available for any employee of the bank when they need it. And the solution was also kind of approved internally by all the compliance departments, risk departments of the banks, as well as by the regulators in different geographies that this bank is present globally. So this is kind of the main benefit for the bank. For benefit for us, we got, first of all, we got amazing partnership with Accenture, and of course we have contracted one of the biggest banks in the world, who is becoming a reference to our other projects with banks bigger and smaller.
Right on time, closing the presentation at this stage. Thank you very much. We gave you 2 minutes back, Natalie, so that we can go right in time with the next presentation. I think we have a few questions. I'll leave it to you, Natalie, to help us navigate through those.
Exactly. So thank you to both of you. And I already saw, Kyriakos, you're really multitasking. You have already chatted with the participants while you were talking. I'm very impressed. But maybe just so that everyone hears it, one of the questions was, I mean, Innovation Labs, FinTech Innovation Lab, is that the only way to get in contact than also with some of our larger clients? Maybe you can do it also with a voiceover for those that haven't seen.
Yeah, I would say it's 3 steps. I mean, the 3 FinTech Innovation Labs, these are the labs that are running global processes. The next round for Hong Kong is starting in a few weeks, so this will go live for the next round of applicants. So this is one entry point, but we also have our innovation teams and our startup screening teams also in every big. So in the DACH region, in Germany, in Austria, in Switzerland, we have our local teams, and they also maintain the central database of all the startups that we're screening, which is, I think, a double-digit thousand figure. So we have really a big database with the assessments, with the maturity, with the background, with the solutions, with demos. It's really powerful. So I was coming to this world through that internal team in the database. Dima came through the FinTech Lab, and then we have our account network. Yeah? Like myself, every client, be it a financial service client or any other, has a dedicated client account network, and we exchange. So Michael, who called me from Hong Kong, he was responsible for another multinational UK-based bank that is also active in APAC, and he called me as his peer and said, look, we have this very interesting opportunity. So there are multiple levels of how to get in. It's a huge network, and you can exploit that to the max and enter in different levels.
Thank you. Then Dima, maybe to you, it can be quite a challenge, right? To go from Asia to Europe, from Europe to Asia. How was your experience? What kind of challenges did you have to overcome? You mentioned that one of the things that helped you was a local team on the ground, but maybe you can expand a little bit, and then also what's kind of the next step? Huh?
Right. So the challenges were, first of all, time zone difference, right? But we as a startup, we work 24/7, and every day is Monday, so it was nothing we couldn't overcome. But yes, the local presence in Switzerland, let's say, without Accenture, the lack of it would be the biggest challenge, right? So same time zone, same sitting in the same office, interfacing with the customers, and Accenture team on the ground helping us to overcome it. So it's through very close collaboration between all the parties involved. Yeah, so that's kind of the answer to this question. What's next? Global domination, like a pinky in the brain. So we are already very in a few large deployments in Europe, in Asia, beginning in North America. So from here we have more and more banks coming on board because they realize our value proposition with our solution when it comes to overall messaging strategy of any bank.
But then I have to really
let's put one additional point on the what next. So with two branches. One is with our clients. So we heard that the solution is a federated messaging orchestration platform. Basically, you can go into a messaging app and you can write to your colleagues or to a client through that app, and the client may see it directly in their WhatsApp, in their WeChat, in Lime. So for them, the experience is the same. They don't have to download anything. They don't have to do something special. They just have to go and report on that secure channel when you ask them to. So this is really powerful, right? No downloading again, that 100th application of the bank. You just establish this secure and compliant communication channel through that. So this is a new channel. That's one what's next. Like emails and like phone calls, this platform now gives you the opportunity to have a new direct channel with your clients. And the second part, what does that actually imply? It means that you can actually have a secure and fully compliant new channel, which is cloud first and digital only. So you can put all the analytics that you have in-house or you can get out of the market and great things, not only to be compliant and data leakage prevention and be able to communicate with your client in a compliant way, but imagine all this conversation happening and putting an analytics engine on top of it to understand intent, to understand sentiment, to understand topics that are discussed. You can think next best action. You can think next best content. This is really the starting point of creating a new channel and communicating between banks and clients. And I think that's the most exciting thing. It's the growth potential on top of the compliant communication.
And then, but relating to this, what would you still say to corporates that are quite hesitant in opening up these kinds of communication messaging platforms beyond maybe the traditional messaging that they have? What would you say to them if they're still hesitant, if they don't know if this is really the way they would like to go?
Yeah, so maybe I can chip in on here. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when at this point, right? So what we see, so compared to let's say 2-3 years ago, this problem was pretty new to people, and they didn't realize there was a solution. And right now, there is a proper solution in place to allow different banks to allow their company employees to message with the clients on any channel, with all required integrations to address the compliance and the needs of regulation, things like ethical walls, information barriers, data leakage prevention, and much more. So we see this wave of banks, big and small, are coming on board with this idea all around the world.
There is actually, Dima, an interesting question from the audience, which is about differences in corporation culture. You've touched upon previously how you came from Asia to Europe, but what about the corporation culture in general? What can maybe European banks learn from Asian banks, or the other way around? Is there a difference?
Yeah, we are interesting case. So both me and my co-founder Avi, we are actually Israelis, and we happen to be in Hong Kong. So our company is a blend of Israeli kind of break everything and then build, and then also some Asian solidity and caution when it comes to large projects, right? So as a combination of this creates some interesting synergies. And maybe one of the examples, working with Accenture team, who is more kind of Germany, Austria focused, it was a small item in RFP. So when you answer RFP, you say compliant or not compliant to some items. And there was one item with a startup we knew will have it in a few months, right? And but the German colleagues working with us said, no, you have to state what you have now and not what you will have in a few months. It was an interesting kind of cultural difference that we had to overcome working together.
Very interesting. You've talked about senior management engagement, right? Top management, which is very important. But since you both have been really in the project inside, and you also know the client well, since the client isn't here with us today, can you still share what kind of capabilities that the bank really have to develop in order to be able to orchestrate and support this kind of cooperation with a fintech startup?
Kyriakos, do you want to take this one?
Let me take this one first then. I mean, the first thing was actually to design the solution, right? Because Dima and the team have a technological solution, a platform. The thing is that fit for purpose? So during the RFP and during the demos, we had to show that, and they had to start imagining new ways of solving a problem that they had, right? Because the regulator told them, make your employee communication compliant. And the first reaction of the bank was, we do not allow this communication by policy. And that was the answer of the bank, right? Their answer was, we have it in a policy, you're not allowed to do it. Is that good enough? It's not good enough in the current era, right? Where all your employees have so many digital capabilities to communicate with clients. So we had to change the mindset of how to attack the problem, how to find a solution, how to define it, what are the business requirements, so designing this so that it's legally correct, that's compliance correct, technology correct, cloud, data on the cloud, how to deal with that, the different regulations around the world. So the client had to bring all of these capabilities in there. And then they also had to bring the IT capabilities, because we needed to integrate it within their architecture, with their own organization structure data, with their own policies and compliance controls, with their own environments of how you go from system integration to testing to deployment into the production. So there is a multitude of capabilities that you need to bring in there. And these had to be matched on our side by the Accenture team, the colleagues who were mostly on the business requirements, and then Dima's team, who were mostly on developing the solution and making sure to bring all the requirements live in a stable way in the production. So a combination of many capabilities here.
Right, so orchestrating all the capabilities first, really maybe teaching new capabilities, but also bringing different stakeholders around the table. So maybe as a wrap up, just to have one word from you, if you could maybe share one word that describes how quick scaling, so 6 months, one word that is the most essential. How did you manage it? 6 months of scaling this project, one word. Maybe Dima, the challenge is yours.
Yeah, record breaking.
And
Kyriakos, what is one word, how you managed it?
Yeah, I would say the collaboration. It's similar to the previous example, I recognize, but it was really crucial. You can imagine that Dima and me and Avi and the managing directors of the client, we have weekly calls and also daily calls in our teams to really manage this. So it sounds strange because normally you don't have the CEO and then 3-4 MDs discussing on a weekly basis this topic, but this is the senior engagement and collaboration that you need. If you get this straight and you have the top-down sponsorship and also engagement, operational engagement, things can go pretty well, pretty fast.
Great. Thanks to both of you. Very interesting. If I said it before, if there's any participant questions, we can answer them a little bit later still. So thanks to both of you. Very interesting to have this global journey through the lab to the client. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having us.